Welcome everybody to our podcast series on innovative healthcare solutions sponsored by the Conference of Consulting Actuaries. This is a series of podcasts focused on innovation in healthcare, really focused on all the innovative solutions that exist out there in the delivery of healthcare today. My name is Ed Pudlowski. I'm president of Morningstar Actuarial Consulting, and I'm actually chair of the healthcare community within the CCA, and I'm going to be your host for today's session. We're coming to you live from the Conference of Consulting Actuaries annual meeting at the beautiful Nashville Renaissance Hotel, so it's great kind of being here in Music City and doing this. We're also going to take a little twist on our normal sessions that we do. As you know, normally we're talking to the innovative solution providers themselves and getting some insights. Today we're going to take advantage of a session that we conducted earlier this week with the employer's point of view. So to that end, I'm excited to be joined by Nathan Counts, who's the global benefits leader at Amtrak.
Oh, thanks, Ed.
So, Nate, we had a great conversation, and you talked quite a bit about the culture at Amtrak. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that, and then maybe kind of how that leads into your philosophy around point solutions at Amtrak?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's always helpful to start with the company's business strategy or culture, which leads into your people and reward strategy. And for Amtrak, I think one of the more unique things is, right, it's a very safety-sensitive culture, right? It's 85% union employees that are traveling, right, all over the country. So it's a very transient population. They can't have devices when they're on facility or on site. Because of a little bit of our quasi-governmental nature, fraud, waste, and abuse is a big issue, right? So, and we have a very diverse workforce. We have probably twice the amount of people or persons of color than the U.S. national average. So all of those things kind of blend into what it means to be an Amtrak railroader, and certainly what we focus on or what we're looking for, maybe just differently than your regular Fortune 1000 company.
So how many of your employees are, actively transporting other people during the day? What percentage of your organization is
Yeah,
that?
that's a good question. It's actually a smaller portion. So maybe it's only 10 or 20% if you're thinking about who's on the train. Our CEO likes to talk about Amtrak like he's the mayor of a small city, right? We have a power plant. We make our own electricity. We have a restaurant. We're making food, right? People are repairing the roads and the catenaries, the cable over the train cars, right? Okay. People are in the shops washing the trains, fixing the trains. And so, yes, there are a lot of people on the trains, the conductor, the engineers, but there's a lot that happens, in the city around Amtrak behind the scenes.
So how does that translate? I mean, what type of issues do you have that requires, some solution that, say, perhaps your health plan can't deliver for you?
Yeah, I think for us, right, and you think about railroad benefits, right, it's an old storied industry. I think the big opportunity that we have is, I think much of the railroad industry has stopped at saying, hey, we have rich benefits, low no deductibles, low no co-payment plans, and that equals great health care. But we know our costs might be twice as high as the regular employee. We have all the health conditions and needs, so just having access to low no deductibles, low co-payments does not equate to great health care, right? And so there's a real opportunity, I think our union members get a sense of that, to bring innovative solutions, to bring access, right? When they're traveling around the country, right? To be able to call, text, engage in the way that's meaningful to them at a time that's meaningful to them. We have shift employees working around the clock. And so that, 8 to 5 healthcare model just doesn't hold up for our population.
Yeah. So how do you, so given kind of some of these challenges, right? People are traveling, they're engaged, they're doing their work, and they're very active. You've got a power plant, you talked about a construction company.
Yeah.
How do you get them engaged, right, in managing their health through whatever solutions that you have when they're that busy during the day? I mean, they're not sitting in an office, a good portion of your workforce isn't sitting in an office, right?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's something I think we and everyone still wrestles with, right? Benefit utilization. It's normally that you don't have good benefit programs. It's maybe that people aren't using them. So I think our approach has been to try to bring forward solutions that don't give our employees extra homework, but take homework off their back.
Okay.
So if we're starting with concierge programs or financial well-being, student loan debt, someone that'll just help book doctor's appointments for them. Whatever we can do to take the load off of them has been really successful. And certainly in a union environment where a lot of those escalations trickle up, we found a lot of success in working with our union representatives and our union trustees, because they're getting a lot of those questions. And I think if you can help bring something to them that helps them get to the front of the line quicker, that kind of trickles down in the organization, and they can say, hey, you don't just have to come to me when you have a benefits issue, right? You can call, Advocate ABC, right, to help. And so a lot of those concierge or things dealing with the experience have been where we found success for utilization.
Well, I like I want to make sure I get this comment right, but you said good solutions have good utilization. So
yeah.
You want to talk about that just a little bit in terms of,
sure.
of what you meant by that?
Yeah, it's maybe some of the simplicity of it, right? But you can always tell a good solution when people want to engage in it, right? And they're satisfied using it. Those are also very simple metrics, but things that we focus on that allows us to manage, most of our innovative health solutions. Start at the top of the funnel. Are people using it? Are they happy? And so for us, that is maybe an overly simplistic, but a very good place to start. And so again, the things that we found successful that drive good utilization, that to us feel like good solutions, have been those things that, again, are there to help people as opposed to just give someone a to-do list for something in a health world that they've probably been struggling with for a long time.
Okay. What other metrics do you look for beyond engagement to know whether you're working with a successful solution and it's driving what you want in your population?
Yeah, I think for us, if we're going down the funnel, are you using it? Are you happy using it? I think the next step for us is to look at some value on investment. So those might be things that you might expect to see in the first month, first 6 to 12 months, right? Maybe the clinical change where their disease condition hasn't fully changed, but maybe they're on the drug you wanted them to use. Maybe they're stopped going to the emergency room as much and started going to primary care. And then we work our way down the funnel ultimately to say, are we getting that clinical outcome, that return on investment? So for us, we like to tranche it into those. Are you using it? Are you happy? Some early signals that probably pass the smell test of is this thing working or not, before we get to the ultimate clinical dollar value of the return on investment.
So you've used value on investment, return on investment a couple times. But what I haven't heard you say is you actually like to see that it has some impact on your overall healthcare costs, right? Is that a component, or is it just that the culture is so focused on making sure that you're really delivering what's important to the population that is so far down the list of the things that you look for?
Yeah, it certainly is. Our company is in growth mode. We're hiring 10 times the amount of people that each year than we've hired historically, and so there is a lot of focus on things that employees value and find satisfaction in. But at the end of the day, right, I think something, whether you keep your job or not, right, we have to see the healthcare trend bend down. So without a doubt, I think everything we do has ultimately a healthcare cost trend impact. But I think there's tons of solutions in this space that are win-wins. And so especially for a union population where it's not just a zero-sum game that the employer saves money and the employees have to spend more out of pocket, most of the solutions in this space really present an opportunity for a new, better way, right? If the health plan saves money, maybe I can share some of that with you. There's no co-payment perhaps, or it's more of an EAP model. I'll have as much of your household using our EAP program as possible. And then that utilization hopefully becomes the virtuous cycle to drive savings as well.
Okay. So Nate, What is it that a point solution has to have when they come in to get you interested in them? What is it that they need to show you for you to go, maybe I ought to have a conversation with this one, or we're just not even going to talk?
Yeah, I think for us, we're not going to be an early buyer in the buying cycle. So we are looking for a little bit of maturation. So, maybe it's clients in a similar industry where you've already developed results. So that could be passenger airlines, hospitality for us. I think it's, leading the conversation with some competitive intelligence for how you are different, not only in your product category, but why of the 30 different spaces, you should be the next thing that I consider. And so I've seen, in this innovative health solution space, companies be successful when they not only lead those first conversations about how they're different within the product category, but also why, of the 10, 15, 20 things you need to focus on and do, why they should be at the top of the list. And so for us, that could be, again, utilization and satisfaction, or that next best thing on cost control that we have not considered.
Okay. And, are you looking for them when they come in the door to, demonstrate that value right away and tailor it to you? Or, what is it that you look for, that they kind of can demonstrate and show to you? What gets your attention?
Yeah, I think in sometimes for health solutions, I am expecting them to open up the conversation and kind of catch my attention with some of the sizzle, so to speak, on whether it's ROI or utilization, for where they've seen success already in their book of business. I think too often in some of those initial conversations, it can be a bit of a dance on a first date of lots of interview questions, right? And trying to tailor that pitch too much to maybe Amtrak or any company's needs, where I'm waiting for the introduction to what makes them different and why I should consider it. That maybe comes too late in some of those early conversations. So pulling forward that return on investment, value on investment, people using it, simple to contract with perhaps, is what I'm looking for, especially with limited time.
Well, I'm laughing because there was another comment that you made that I thought was very funny, which is contracting is where point solutions go to die.
That's right.
You want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know that that the point solution or innovative health solution space thinks about how much contracting and implementation wears on a team, takes resources away from the team, and so the ability for, whether it's a channel partnership, right? If you're working with a health plan, you're working with an ecosystem or vendor partner, the ability to pay as a claim so it doesn't impact my budget, the ability for your sales team to be well integrated with your product and implementation team, to have your lawyers, when you're contracting, work with the people who were sold on the solution. All of those things can really present problems and speed bumps. And unfortunately, I think employers have gotten to a space where they're a little bit tired and worn down, and the thoughts of contracting with another solution can be really challenging. So whatever you can do to ease that up front through a simple experience, through partnerships, claims versus budget, I think helps move you towards the front of the line.
How important are performance guarantees in your relationships with your point? I mean, kind of talking about contracting, right? Because those would have to be an integral component of that. I mean, how important is that for you?
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, I think the reality is performance guarantees have more value up front, right? In that sales cycle, you're sold a little bit more on ROI or utilization or what you're focused on. But ultimately, when it gets to the contract and makes its way there, performance guarantees rarely pay out, and that's normally a good thing. You don't want them to pay out. That's right. You don't want the bad service. But where I do think there's a lot of value is maybe Amtrak's performance guarantees are different than Apple's or AT&T's or Amazon's, and that can tell you a lot about why we're purchasing the solution and what we want to focus on in this partnership. So for me, more than the individual guarantees themselves, it's that signal and alignment of this relationship.
Okay. How much do you then kind of indicate to the vendors that you're talking to that these are the things that we want to see before they kind of actually bring you the the guarantees?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, again, we try to keep it simple on one performance guarantee on utilization, satisfaction, pick a value on investment metric, and then pick a return metric. But that said, if you are constrained for time or resources, we've certainly said it, can you bring forward what are some common performance guarantees? But for us, it's a little bit memorializing the whole reason we're having that conversation or engagement. So the performance guarantees kind of naturally flow, I think, from the conversation of why are we engaged in this space to begin with?
Okay. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Oh, I might have alluded to it a little bit, but I think it is when a salesperson comes in and just is peppering you with questions to learn so much about your company to then tailor the sales pitch to you. There's a modicum of that I think makes good sense, but really, the employer on the other side of the table, this might be their 10th conversation this month in this space, or 100th that year, right?
Right.
And so they've done the dance, and I think I'm looking for more of that upfront differentiator. Why should I consider this product space? How are you different from your competitors? And why should this be the next best thing that I do?
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So I always like to wrap up these conversations with a more personal question, right? And so, I always ask, what if you weren't an actuary, if you didn't get into the actuarial field, if you weren't working, as a global benefits leader for Amtrak, what's your passion? What would you have done?
I think I would have been a teacher, maybe a college teacher. So
really?
I had the opportunity
in mathematics or in something else?
Probably math. It could be anything. I don't know what they would pay me to do, but I had the opportunity in grad school to be a teaching assistant.
Okay.
And had the opportunity to teach first-generation college students, and it was such a rich and rewarding experience that shaped, I think, my leadership style to come, which was, you can do this, right? To help people understand, you see that in the profession with young actuaries as well, to really help instill in them the confidence and to grow for something that seems complex and obtuse, but really can pay dividends. And so whether that would be at a junior college or something that's similarly situated individuals, I would love to maybe return to that in maybe the twilight of my actuarial career.
Well, I really admire that. I'm having a lot of fun mentoring a lot of kind of young actuaries, and it's been very, very enjoyable sharing kind of my life experiences. So that's great. Well, hey, I really want to thank you for coming today, and I also like to encourage our audience, to participate in our healthcare community to really continue some of the discussions that we've had today here around this. So if you're listening to this and you're not a member of the Conference of Consulting Actuaries, you can easily join, and then you get access to our community and those types of things. Nate, thanks again for coming here today. I really enjoyed this conversation. I really enjoyed you kind of sharing your point of view on how employers think around these point solutions. I'm sure there'll probably be a lot of them watching this to figure out how they need to change their strategies. So thanks again.
Well, appreciate it, Ed.